a great impact on our teaching as well as learning. So we all know that a global demand of English and teaching continues to grow. So it is important, it is a need for reliable and standardized certification systems. So these certification models play an important and crucial role in ensuring the quality of English language education and recognizing the achievement of both teachers and students. So over the course of this seminar, we will explore some of the most widely recognized, respected certification models and frameworks around the world. And it will help us to um, receive, know, and refresh our knowledge about what a certification model looks like. Um, and most importantly, it will also connect teachers as well as students um, in the world of certification models, and it enhance our future career as teachers. Welcome everybody for this virtual seminar that is going to be a week of full knowledge, joy, and of course networking with teachers from different parts of the country. So before starting, we have a housekeeping information, some kind of important details that we have to know. We have to consider muting microphones, please. Once we have the speakers presenting or speakers we're going to be sharing, we appreciate if you have your microphone muted because it will minimize the background noise and it will also keep us connected as well as engaged. If there is any question, you can ask or use the chat box here on Zoom. We will be happy to answer your question, or you can raise your hand and we're gonna give you the opportunity to ask your question. If there is any technical difficulties in terms of connecting, we'll be very happy if you can send us an email or contact us via WhatsApp. So every material or every session is gonna be recorded and it's gonna be posted on Classroom. If you have any comment or any doubt, please go to the recorded session and that will be really helpful for you as well as for refreshing the information that is going to be shared during the whole week. Most importantly, engagement. We will really appreciate your participation, your actively participation during the course, during the seminar, asking questions using the chat box here, or sharing your experience in terms of working with this with the topic that we're going to discuss this well. And most importantly, try to keep our timing, right? So if there is any kind of activities where you're going to be working in groups, we're going to time the group activities as well as your questions and answer session. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining us today. And we are going to start by, calling Professor Marisol Ortega. She is the coordinator of our continuing education committee.
Thank you, Joel. A good morning to everyone. Good morning, Dr. Olmedo Garcia, Dean of the College of Humanities, Professor Lidiana Hills, Vice Dean of the College of Humanities, Professor Gloria Dejo, Chairperson of the English Department, Professor Adrian Jimenez, Head of the English School, Professor Florencio Diaz, Director of Extension and Continuing Education Coordination, Mrs. Edikel Santimateo, Administrative Coordinator of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination. To our speakers of this week, Professor Daniel Lowe, Patricia Almendro, Andres Becerra, Abdias Luque, and Eneas Flores. And to you, all of our participants that are going to be with us throughout this week. It is my very great honor to welcome everyone to this seminar, Common Certification Models for Teaching and Learning English as a Foreign Language. First, we would like to express our gratitude to Mrs. Edikel Santimateo Administrative Coordinator of the Continuing Education Coordination, and also to the English Department Seminar Organizing Committee, Professor Randy Morales, Belsis Bishop, Professor Veronica Forte, Professor Suri Palacios, Professor Joel Alvarez. Well, I can't tell you how hard they have worked to organize everything well. Without them, this seminar wouldn't have been possible. Thank you. We must thank our extraordinary luxury speakers that are going to be with us this week, sharing their knowledge and wisdom. And thank you all for being here with us. Thank you. We are going to start in a few minutes, but before we start, we would like to express our gratitude to our Lord God, who has made all of this possible. And for this, we call Pastor Mauricio Brown. Pastor Brown, the floor is yours.
Buenos días, Dios le bendiga a todos. Gracias, hermana Marisol, por permitirnos representar a Dios en este caso. Y también, gracias también por darle la oportunidad al Señor, obviamente de ser el primero. Y dice la palabra del Señor que si lo ponemos a Él primero, Él nos ayudará en todas las cosas. Vamos a orar. Padre, en el nombre suyo en esta hora, Señor. Padre, damos gracias por este día que nos has dado. Reconocemos que si estamos aquí es porque tú nos tienes aquí. Nadie puede estar aquí por querer estar aquí. Tú nos tienes aquí. Gracias, Señor, porque se te ha puesto a ti de primer lugar. Señor, y tú tienes que ser el primer lugar para que las cosas salgan bien. Y te presentamos, Señor, cada uno de los que van a estar hablando en esta mañana. La organización, Señor, la dirección. Te pedimos, Señor, que todo vaya a fluir bien y en todas las cosas haya conciencia de ti, Señor, para entregarse a ti todos los que no te conocen. Te damos gracias. Toma control y que todo pueda fluir de acuerdo a cómo se ha planificado. Damos gracias en el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Thank you, Pastor Brown. Thank you very much. Well, now we are going back to Joel. Where is Joel? Joel, where are you?
Thank you. So let's switch into Spanish, right? Because we are a bilingual university. We're going to have Spanish and English in the seminar. Ahora vamos a tener las palabras de bienvenida y el mensaje del señor decano, el doctor Olmedo García, decano de la Facultad de Humanidades.
Buenos días a todos y a todas. En atención a lo programado por Educación Continua y la Comisión de Educación Continua del Departamento de Inglés, quiero en primer lugar reconocer esta labor que están llevando a cabo en conjunto con la Dirección de Educación Continua que dirige el profesor Florencio Díaz y la Coordinación de Educación Continua del Departamento de Inglés, coordinado por la profesora Marisol, y aquí en esta ocasión Joel, que está también dándole monitoreo al seminario del día de hoy. También nuestro reconocimiento a sus autoridades, el profesor Adrián Jiménez, director de la escuela, la profesora Gloria Jo, directora del departamento, y el profesor Ricardo Acosta, director del técnico de inglés. Igualmente le expreso el reconocimiento de apoyo a la vicedecana, la Diana Gil, y al resto de los profesores que nos acompañan en este seminario. ¿Cuál es el propósito de este seminario? El propósito del seminario, que hoy nosotros lo hemos reformulado con un eje tendiente a la gestión educativa. Creo que es muy importante que siempre no es necesario tratar de desarrollar el conocimiento de inglés desde la perspectiva solamente del método de la gramática, la lingüística. Nosotros creemos que las lenguas cumplen una relación interdisciplinaria con las ciencias sociales y las humanidades. Hoy es importante entender que la educación que requerimos nosotros no es una educación de una disciplina, es la educación para conocer el mundo desde distintas perspectivas, donde no hay nadie que tenga la verdad. La verdad es una construcción, así como el conocimiento, la gramática, la lingüística, es una construcción donde todos, dialogando, podemos descubrir los saberes que requerimos para este mundo. En este momento que la humanidad atraviesa por momentos difíciles, difíciles, en donde se quieren imponer modelos guerreristas, modelos que atentan contra el desarrollo de la vida, que está aumentando la pobreza, que está aumentando el desempleo, que hay una crisis de valores. Nosotros tenemos que asumir que la mejor herramienta es la formación como hoy estamos recibiendo. Es la formación de la educación continua, pero no solamente que podamos transmitir códigos y saberes de una sola disciplina. Se requiere que los saberes estén interrelacionados con los saberes para poder conocer la vida, porque la vida no solamente es el conocimiento es una parte de la vida. La vida se constituye con valores, con propósito, con gratitud, y esa es la respuesta de nuestra facultad de humanidades. Cumple una visión y una misión, y por eso nosotros creemos firmemente en que este aporte del Seminario de Educación Continua responde a entender esos desafíos que estamos hoy presentando. Por eso quiero reconocer el esfuerzo de darle otra dinámica y otra visión a la educación continua nuestra. Y esa visión y esa educación continua nuestra, no solamente para tener 4 puntos porque tenemos un seminario, no solamente es para actualizarnos, no, es también para que nuestros docentes y nuestros estudiantes compartan una visión del mundo. Las redes sociales nos están destruyendo porque transmiten una verdad, una hegemonía de una verdad e impone una realidad. Nosotros queremos que la tecnología sea una herramienta, pero que nosotros transformemos esa herramienta, cualquiera que sea, hoy en la revolución de la 4G o de la 5G o de los algoritmos o de la inteligencia artificial, constituyen siendo una herramienta. Lo que transforma el mundo somos la sociedad, somos la humanidad. Lo que nos están imponiendo es un modelo. Eso no es una transformación, es un modelo. Por eso que tenemos que luchar contra el modelo que no es nuestro. Y la base de eso es descubrir, saber conocer otros saberes, que el conocimiento se vincule y sea interdisciplinario con otra ciencia. Por eso, mis expresiones de reconocimiento, y ese es el papel que nosotros queremos darle a esta misión que tenemos de educación continua. Decirle a todos los compañeros del Departamento de Inglés, más de 100 docentes, que sepan ustedes que a mediados de año nosotros asumimos la tarea de darle esta nueva herramienta a todos y a todas. Y creo que con el esfuerzo de ese equipo que Marisol encabeza, hay que reconocer que nos mantiene actualizados e invitando a los mejores docentes del área latinoamericana, de Estados Unidos, de Canadá, a participar en nuestro seminario de actualización, para no dejar a nadie atrás, para luchar contra las amenazas que hemos sufrido de atentar contra la dignidad y la infamia contra nuestro docente. Pero hay otra mirada, que es la gratitud. A todos ustedes les deseo que este seminario no solamente los éxitos, sino que podamos compartir este mundo que estamos viviendo, las amenazas que estamos viviendo, y que también este pequeño aporte del seminario contribuya a crear también sociedades más democráticas, más igualitarias, más pertinentes. Muchos éxitos, compañeros y compañeras. Bienvenidos a nuestro seminario de actualización en la Facultad de Humanidades y en el Departamento de Inglés. Saludos a todos.
Muchas gracias, señor decano, por sus atinadas palabras. Now switch into English. So we have remarks by Professor Adrian Jimenez. He is the director of the English School.
Hi, first of all, I would like to thank God for giving me the opportunity of sharing this exciting moment with you, for being here as a family. Okay, good morning, Dr. Romero Garcia, Dean of the College of Humanities, Professor Leidiana Hills, Vice Dean of the College of Humanities, Professor Gloria Dejo, Chairperson of the English Department, dear professor, colleagues, friends, the Director of Dictation and Continuing Education, Professor Florencio Diaz, Mrs. Enrique Santimateo, Administrative Coordinator, our special speakers, Magister Daniel Lowe, Magister Patricia Almendro, Magister Abdias Luques, and Magister Eneas Flores. Welcome to this extraordinary seminar. It's a pleasure, it's an honor for me to introduce this seminar called Common Certification Models for Teaching and Learning English as a Foreign Language. First of all, I would like to mention about the words that the Dean said about our purpose. We have to focus first on our purpose. What is our purpose? To help the future generation, to help those that need to overcome the process of unemployment. For instance, according to my research, because remember that I'm working now in a curriculum, the unemployment in Panama has increased in 2023. It has been far from the previous years. The unemployment now has destroyed the Panamanian society. And what happened? The Panamanian people, foreigners, all are looking for the university as a tool, as a way to survive. So we are the hope that they have. According to the information that I have in the research, the labor market, the enterprises, they are looking for special skills. And the three most important skills are the following. Number one, they need employees with excellent working skills, but in English. They need English skills. Number two, they need workers with information about technology. And number three, teamwork. For instance, this that we are doing here, our teamwork is important because we are getting together to join forces to overcome the obstacles that we have. For me, this is like a dream that comes true. Remember that, I don't know, for those that are like from many, many years ago, that we didn't have internet and we didn't even think about having the opportunity to share this information like here, like a family for all members of the community. This is an excellent opportunity that we have, and we have to take advantage of this. The second point that I wanted to mention is about the importance of the certification. The certification models are important because they are the base of society at this moment. For instance, if we want to work in Europe or the US, we need to have at least one certification. It can be from the Cambridge University, from Canada, the US, but this is important. Then the requirements, at least C1, like the advanced level in the Common European Framework. We need our degree and a certification. So this is something that is taking place around the world and is coming to Panama too. Then, the situation with the students. I think it was like last year. One student from the College of Science. He was waiting for me for a long time because I was teaching, I was giving classes. And then when I came back from the class, he said, Professor, Director, I need your help. I got the scholarship, but one of the requirements is to pass the TOEFL. What can I do? Can you imagine how can we train him in 1 month? But he had only 1 month to pass the TOEFL, in order to pass the TOEFL. This is something that we have to be aware that we need to train Panamanians from the beginning. I would say even from secondary school, we have to introduce in the different schools, like not only general English in the 6 levels, no? But also we have to introduce technical English. Basically, this is essential. In Europe, what have they done? Why do they have like so high scores in English? Why? Because they have introduced at the universities core courses in English. More than 0.5% of their courses are in English. So we have to be aware of this situation. This important seminar that we have here is giving us like the lights that we have to take into account in order to go on in this society. For instance, we have the trends that we have nowadays. They told me that I read about virtual reality, augmented vision, online education. All those things are aspects that we have to be aware in order to succeed in our teaching and accomplish our purpose. What is our purpose? To help Panamanian people to increase their knowledge in English and be able to apply in the different jobs and succeed. I encourage you to participate in this seminar, to take advantage of the opportunity, take notes, and also share your information, share your knowledge, that this is an excellent opportunity. And thank you for those that made this possible, Professor Marisol Ortega, Joel, Suri, Professor Bessie Bishop, Randy, all your effort and your energy will give a lot of fruits. So thank you. Let's see, we continue with this interesting seminar. See you.
Hello, thank you, Professor Adrian, for your remarks. So now it's time to start the goal of what we are doing here today, right? Learn and refresh, or probably have this kind of contact with what is what the models are. But before going into that, it's important to know how the models are created. Okay, and so we will start with the first session, which is the introduction to the main certification of linguistic competence and English language teaching. So we have the trainer facilitator ready here connected, but I'd like to provide an intro of who is our first facilitator for this seminar. We want to welcome Daniel Lowe. Daniel is from Brenton, England. He graduated from the University of York, England, with a Bachelor of Arts in English and a Master of Arts in Contemporary Fiction. He spent 14 years working in ELT in Honduras and was the Director of Studies at Unitec Tegucigalpa. He has a CELTA and a Delta certification from the University of Cambridge, and he's a teacher trainer and a professional development facilitator. He has been living in Panama since February 2017 and founded Low English Services, which offers tailor-made professional development and quality assurance services to the Panamanian ELT community. Welcome, Daniel Lowe, and the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much, Joel. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk a little bit about certification. Of course, there's so much involved in this topic, but this is just going to be a brief overview of the most important entities in the world of language certification. I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me a second. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Great, okay. So the title of this series of seminars is Common Certification Models for Teaching and Learning English as a Foreign Language. And I thought it would be interesting just to reflect for a moment on certain different areas of English language teaching. So this title includes the phrase English as a foreign language. In English language teaching, we have a lot of acronyms, and in fact, it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming to remember what each acronym actually stands for, and also what the differences are between them. So I thought it might be a fun way to start the session today, just to look at 4 very common acronyms and just to reflect on the differences. So first of all, we have EFL, okay? And if I could ask the course participants, if you could go to the chat on Zoom, and if you could enter what you believe EFL is an acronym for, what are the words that EFL stands for? Thank you very much, Hania Bonilla. English as a foreign language. Thank you, Dimas and Amilcar. Exactly. So English as a foreign language. What about ESL? Thank you so much, Teacher Dimas. Yep, it's English as a second language. Thank you, Hania, as well. How about ESP? Has anybody come across that acronym, ESP? Thank you so much, Teacher Dimas. English for specific purposes. And finally, this one's perhaps a little bit less well known, ELF. Thank you so much, Teacher Leda. Yeah, English as a lingua franca. So let's just stop one moment and just reflect on the differences between these different fields of English language teaching. So as you correctly said, EFL stands for English as a foreign language, and ESL is English as a second language. Now, often we hear people using these terms interchangeably as if they mean the same thing, but they actually mean different things. And it's important for us to recognize the difference. So English as a foreign language is when English is being taught in a country in which English is not the principal first language. So, for example, here in Panama, we are teaching EFL because Spanish is the number 1 language. English as a second language is when English is being taught in a context in which English is the main language. So, for example, if you're teaching English in the United States, Canada, UK, etc., that would be considered ESL. We also have English for specific purposes, and that refers to specific areas of life. So, for example, maybe pilots need to learn particular English that is relevant to their professional field. So English for specific purposes. And finally, English as the lingua franca. This is a relatively new development or movement in English language teaching, which recognizes that there are now more non-native speakers of English than there are native speakers. And what implications does that have on teaching English? So we perhaps no longer, use examples of British or American culture as topics of interest. We can be talking about more global issues, and also a movement away from using native speaker accents in audios, and a recognition that it's actually important for people to understand Indian people speaking English, African people speaking English, Asian people speaking English. So more and more, you hear this word world English, and in the textbooks, the audios often feature conversations between two non-native speakers. Okay, so I thought that that was a useful way to start today's session, because the title of the seminar is Certification in the Context of English as a Foreign Language. But I do believe that it is useful for us to look at some examples from the United States, from the world of ESL. Okay, so in this talk, I'll be sharing with you some of the different organizations and instruments that exist to promote language proficiency certification in an ESL context, and perhaps encourage some of you to engage with those instruments and think about how they might be useful for you here in Panama. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I continue to the next slide? Okay, I'm going to continue. So let's start by thinking about what is one of the dictionary definitions of certification. This is from the Oxford Dictionary, and it is the action or process of providing someone or something with an official document attesting to a status or level of achievement. And then the second definition is an official document attesting to a status or level of achievement. So it's important to remember that institutions can be certified as well as individuals. Obviously, in this case, we're talking about language proficiency, so that's more relevant to the individual. What's important here is that there is an official entity that is granting the certification. Unlike our own tests, which could be perfectly good and well designed, but they are designed by us, the teacher, and perhaps therefore lack the objectivity of a certification from an international body. So that's the dictionary definition of certification. And certifying language proficiency. So we need to just stop for one moment and think about the word proficiency. So again, from the Oxford Dictionary, the word proficiency is described as a high degree of competence or skill or expertise. But I think it's useful, again, to just consider how the word proficiency has come to have specific meanings in our field of English language teaching. So proficiency and competency, are they the same thing? Are they synonyms, or are they different? Well, over the years in our field, the experts have basically made a distinction between those two. So I'd just like to share a little quote from a book called Language Proficiency and Communicative Competence. This is available online if you search. And by the way, I'll be sharing this PowerPoint presentation on the Google Classroom later. So feel free to take notes, but also you can refer to the PPT once it's uploaded. So the authors define language proficiency in the following way. They say that language proficiency can be defined as the ability to use language accurately and appropriately in its oral and written forms in a variety of settings. Okay, that was from Cloud, Janice, and Hamayan in the year 2000. And Kern also developed a broad conceptual framework for understanding language proficiency that includes the dimensions of academic literacy, linguistic, cognitive, and socio-cultural. So to be proficient in a language requires knowledge and skills using the linguistic components. It also requires background knowledge, critical thinking, and metacognitive skills, as well as understanding and applying cultural nuances, beliefs, and practices in context. Finally, being proficient in a language requires skill in using appropriately the 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, for a variety of purposes in a variety of situations with a variety of audiences. So what we can take from this then is that when we talk about language proficiency, we're talking about an individual's ability to use the language. So it's not just knowledge, but it's actually their ability to put all of those skills and knowledge into practice, which are expressed through the 4 language domains, or sometimes referred to as 4 language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So let's think about proficiency as a kind of linguistic concept, okay? And then, as I mentioned, we also hear this idea of communicative competence. So what is the difference? And here the authors tell us that Pike in 1982 notes that language is not merely a set of unrelated sounds, clauses, rules, and meanings. It is a total coherent system of these integrating with each other and with behavior, context, universe of discourse, and observer perspective. And as early as the 1970s, Del Hymes put forward the notion of linguistic competence to mean more than the mastery of formal linguistic systems. Communication is not only oral and written language. When we speak, our speech is often accompanied by non-verbal communications, such as facial expressions, gestures, body movement, and size. The way we stand, the distance between our speakers and us, the looks on our faces, and our tone of voice all influence the manner and content of our communication. So in other words, communicative competence goes beyond grammar and language skills, and it takes into account all of the other aspects of human communication, such as body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and perhaps other aspects of social etiquette. So I think as language practitioners, it's important for us to understand that there has been a distinction drawn between proficiency and competency. So language proficiency is the linguistic command of the language, which includes the 4 skills, and then communicative competence takes into consideration all of the other aspects of human communication that go beyond verbal and written language. Okay, so I think that that's just a useful distinction to keep in mind. So with regard to language proficiency, clearly there are different stages of language proficiency. I apologize for the spelling error in the title there. And I think here in Panama, many of you are familiar with the SIOP model, which stands for Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. And this was developed in the United States in the early 2000s as a way of incorporating immigrant children into mainstream schools in the United States. in helping them to develop their language skills. And I understand that it was applied by Panama Bilingue, and therefore some of you may have experience working with this model. The model establishes 5 stages of language proficiency. So they have pre-production, where students at this stage are not ready to produce much language. They primarily communicate with gestures and actions, and they are absorbing the new language and developing receptive vocabulary. Sometimes people refer to that as the silent period, which is a little bit like a baby in a kind of native speaker language acquisition scenario, where they're just absorbing and listening and watching, but they're not producing. Then we have the early production stage, where students at this level speak using 1 or 2 words or short phrases. Their receptive vocabulary is developing. They understand approximately 1,000 words, and students can answer who, what, and where questions with limited expression. The next stage is speech emergence, and that's where students speak in longer phrases and complete sentences. However, they may experience frustration at not being able to express completely what they know. Although the numbers of errors they make increases, they can communicate ideas, and the quantity of speech they produce increases. We then have intermediate fluency. Students may appear to be fluent. They engage in conversation and produce connected narrative. Errors are usually of style or usage. Lessons continue to expand receptive vocabulary, and activities develop higher levels of language use in content areas. Students at this level are able to communicate effectively. And then finally, this is the goal we all have for our students, advanced fluency. Students communicate very effectively orally and in writing in social and academic settings. So we can see here that the experts have defined what they see as 5 stages of language proficiency developing. Okay, so at this point, it might be a good idea to consider what different types of tests exist in the world of English language teaching. So I think we can divide these into 3 basic categories, okay? The first one is placement tests. So a placement test is a test designed to identify the level of a student who is starting their studies at a particular institution. So if you receive new students, a good practice is to apply a placement test. And most of the international, publishers in English language teaching, and also the testing organizations do produce placement tests. Obviously, they have a cost associated with them, so that can be a little bit of a challenge for certain institutions, but it's considered an extremely good practice to use a, international placement test to identify the student's level. We then have progress tests. So progress tests are tests that are administered during a particular unit of study. So normally in a trimester or a term, you'll study, let's say, a different units from a course book, and it's quite common to apply a test at the end of each unit, which will take into account grammar, vocabulary, and other skills that were learned in that unit of study. It could also include speaking or writing assignments that are testing the students' ability to put into practice whatever the skill that they were trying to acquire was. So those are tests that take place during a unit of study. And then the third category, which is what we're here to discuss today, are proficiency tests. okay? And a proficiency test can fall into two categories. So the first category is to track proficiency at certain milestones. So for example, you may have a proficiency test at if you were in a K-12 school, maybe at 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. If you're at university and you have 3 or 4 years with the students, you might have a proficiency test at the end of each year. So the proficiency test is more than a progress test. It's really seeing, okay, has the student acquired a particular level of proficiency? And then finally, the other category is what we call high stakes. So we're going to be talking about the high stakes test organizations. So that's like TOEFL, Cambridge, IELTS, the kind of test you take if you want to study in an English-speaking university or if you want to apply for a specific type of job, and you have to demonstrate your language proficiency. So we can have proficiency exams that take place during a student's learning over a course of many years at different milestones. And then we have the high stakes tests, which happen at the end to see if the student has got the necessary level for whatever the next thing is that they want to do. So those are the different types of tests that we have. And obviously, in light of this, proficiency is a key element of syllabus planning and evaluation design. So most institutions make reference to a particular set of descriptors of language proficiency levels. The Common European Framework is now the most common one. We will be talking about that in detail over tomorrow and the next day. But there are others which I'll be talking about today. Okay, so at the beginning of the presentation, I made the distinction between ESL and EFL. ESL is English as a second language, which is when English is being taught in a country where English is the main language. So the United States, obviously, as a country with a high level of immigration, is a particularly interesting model to look at in terms of what instruments they have developed to describe language proficiency. So possibly one of the most important is the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, okay? And they have created this, we could say, pyramid, which represents the different levels. And we can see that they have novice, intermediate, advanced, superior, and distinguished. And within the novice, intermediate, and advanced levels, they have 3 subsections: low, mid, high. So that actually gives you about 10 different levels, which is quite useful because it gives you the ability to track progress more easily the more levels you have, because you can distinguish between one level and another. We will be talking about the Common European Framework a little bit later, but one of the problems, or one of the maybe disadvantages of the Common European Framework is that because it has 6 levels, it can be a little bit difficult for learners to feel any sense of progress. Whereas when we have a system like this that has more levels, they can feel their progress as they move from low, mid to high, etc. So we don't have, because of time limitations, we don't have time to look at this instrument in detail. But as you can see here, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages has created a document called Proficiency Guidelines. And in that document, they define the different levels of proficiency in terms of reading, writing, speaking, listening, and this could be a very interesting. You can get this document free online. I'm going to post a link later in the classwork in the Google Classroom, and you could have a look at those descriptors and see whether you find those useful for planning and evaluation design. There are also a set of tests which the ACTFL have produced. So those are aligned with the guidelines, with the proficiency guidelines. So they have a whole bunch of tests for K-12, kinder through 12th grade, and then they also have tests for post-secondary. So that allows institutions in the United States to take tests from an external body and apply them to their students to see whether they're achieving the progress that is required or expected. I think that applying tests from an external body is a great way of demonstrating to all of the stakeholders, so that when we talk about stakeholders, we have students, parents, teachers, administrators, and society in general, that our program is really working and that the students are really achieving the learning outcomes that we are setting. Obviously, if we only apply tests which have been designed in-house, there is a lack of objectivity, and accusations can be made that, oh well, the tests are easy and they don't really challenge the students. So by using assessments from an international organization, it gives that extra level of rigor and transparency to the results that we're achieving. So the ACTFL is one of the main kind of players in the field of language proficiency in ESL in the United States. Okay, another very important organization in the United States is WIDA, which is operated by the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And they have an excellent website, again, with lots of free resources. And what they do is that they have basically identified 4 what they call key usages for communicative purposes of language, which is recount, explain, argue, and discuss. Some of you may think, oh yeah, it sounds a little bit like the Bloom's taxonomy, where we use these verbs to describe different functions of language. So those 4 key usage areas are examined at different grade levels. So they have created descriptors of proficiency for kinder, first grade, then they have one for second and third grade, one for fourth and fifth, one for sixth and eighth, and then one for 9th to 12th. Okay. And what's really interesting about the WIDA approach to language proficiency description is that within each of those categories, they actually have 6 levels of proficiency achievement. So here we can see the 6 levels, what they're called. So the first level is entering, the second level is beginning, third level developing, fourth level expanding, fifth level bridging, and sixth level reaching. Okay, so we know that in any class, however good the intentions of the school are in terms of creating classes with the most similar level of ability, there's always going to be mixed abilities in any classroom. You're always going to have students who are more or less at the right level. Some students may be quite strong and maybe a little bit frustrated because they feel the level's too easy. And then there are other students who are below the level for a variety of reasons. They may have issues related to language learning, they may have emotional, or they may have learning difficulties that prevent them from, or which make the learning process more challenging for them. So I think it's very interesting that the WIDA proficiency levels acknowledge this, and they give us an instrument to say, well, okay, here I have the proficiency descriptors for particular level, let's say third grade, but within that, I have 6 levels of proficiency achievement. So at this point, I would just like to show you their website. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to show you their website because this is actually going to be your task for today after we finish the session. So if everybody could pay attention and maybe ask any questions here. I will be posting, I have actually posted the written instructions, but this is like a verbal explanation. So here is the website for WIDA, and you can see that it says can-do descriptors. So we scroll down and we can see here that the can-do descriptors highlight what language learners can do at various stages of language development as they engage in the following contexts. And that could be bilingual and English immersion, early care and education programs, or bilingual Spanish immersion and English immersion K-12 language programs. So obviously, you know, there's a bit of a difference between that and our reality. Each of you teach in different contexts, but we can't really, I mean, some schools here in Panama do operate immersion in the sense that all of the classes are given in English. But even those of you that are only giving English classes, you know, 2, 3, 4 times a week, there's some interesting kind of, you know, perspectives here on proficiency. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at the right-hand side where it says can-do descriptors name charts, right? So we have kinder, grade 1, grade 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12. So if you are teaching at a school level, I would like you to choose the particular grade of one of the classes that you're teaching. If you're teaching adults or university students, let's go for the grade 9 through 12 because there's still a lot of applicability there. And what we're going to do is we're going to click. So let's imagine I'm a 4th grade teacher. I'm going to click there and I'm going to open the can-do descriptor. This is what it looks like. So I have listening, speaking, I have oral language, I have reading, and I have writing. And you'll notice that for each of the language areas, we have these key usages, right? Recount, explanation, and argument. Again, those are repeated. The only one that is different is oral language, which is more like interaction, right? So discussion. Whereas speaking, when we talk about speaking, we're talking more about the individual's ability to produce language, not necessarily in an interactive way, but more just them, you know, explaining or recounting or arguing in a classroom setting their ideas. So for here we can see that we have the proficiency document for grades 4 and 5, and we have speaking, and we have the different key usages, and then we have 6 different levels of proficiency within those grades that are being described. So I think this is really interesting because it allows us to think about individual students in a single class may have many different levels. Some may be level 1, others may be level 2, level 3. So I think this is a very useful tool, and I would like each of you to kind of engage with this just to get the experience of working with it. So the idea is that you have 2 choices. Well, first of all, you have to choose one of the language skills. Let's choose either listening, speaking, reading, or writing, not oral language, because oral language only has one key area, whereas the other 3 have recount, explanation, and argument. So once you've chosen your skill, let's say like speak, let's imagine you chose speaking, you're then going to conduct a informal evaluation of either an individual student or a class, like the average, proficiency level. So you could say, okay, well, for this task, I chose my 4th grade class, and I've chosen the skill speaking, and I consider that in relation to recount, my students are at a developing level 3. And just give a little explanation, like something you've observed that they can do or they can't do. And then you do the same for explain. I consider that my students for the explain area are at level 4, but at the argue, they're at level 2. Okay, so this will just give you the opportunity to engage with this tool and consider how it might be useful in your context. So the final part of the task is to talk about how useful you think this instrument might be to help you in terms of planning and evaluating your classes. So just to remind you, you're going to go to the website, just share that with you, which is here. The link is already in the classroom. All right. You're going to scroll down. You're going to choose one of the can-do descriptors on the right-hand side, depending on the age of your learners. And if you teach university or adult, choose 9 to 12. But here we have a very interesting rubric which describes different levels of language proficiency within different grade settings. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this task? No?
Is it for today? To present it today?
I believe so, Teacher Leda. Teacher Marisol, are you with us at the moment? Just to clarify what the expectation is in terms of the deadline of this task. Maybe when Teacher Marisol comes back, we can.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Teacher Marisol.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic.
It's okay.
Oh, well, actually, are they going to be participating with that material today? Is that for today? I mean, since you are the teacher that is on this subject.
Yeah, I mean, that was I mean, what I'm not clear on is what your expectation is on deadlines. Like the idea is that they should, that after this presentation, is there another presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
But on Friday, we are going to have a plenary. And they have to present on all of the topics that they had during the week.
I see.
So,
Yeah. Well, this task shouldn't take more than 30 to 60 minutes to complete. So I think it would be a good idea if the participants could try to do that before the end of today, whilst it's still fresh in their mind. Okay.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep. And it's
All
better
right.
to do it by day so that for Friday they will be ready for their
Yeah.
presentations. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So the link.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry. I have a doubt. Okay. It's like a planning.
It's
It's like a planning because um what I saw there in WIDA, it's like a planning.
not so much a plan. It is a description of proficiency levels. Let me go back, and maybe that will help you clarify this point. So, for example, here I chose the WIDA can-do descriptors for grades 4 to 5, okay? And you can see that they are divided by language skill. So we have one section for listening, one section for speaking, one for oral language, one for reading, and one for writing. So in this task, your first job is to decide which language skill you're going to focus on. You can choose that. That's your decision, okay? The only one you can't choose is oral language because that only has one category, discuss, whereas the others have recount, explanation, and argument, okay? So let's imagine that you chose speaking. You can see here that for grades 4 to 5, there are 6 different levels of language proficiency that are being described, from the most basic to the most advanced. So the idea is to give you the experience of, engaging with this instrument. I would like you to consider where you think a group or an individual student of yours currently is. If you're not teaching right now, think about the last group or the last individual that you taught. It doesn't have to be, particularly like scientific. It's just more of a kind of, experience of using this instrument and seeing how it works and thinking about where either an individual or a group of learners would be using this instrument. Does that make sense, teacher? Hi, teacher Teresa. Did you want to say something?
Hi. Well, I just have a question. It means that we have to analyze the rubric or this graph based on one student or the whole group.
That's your choice. If you prefer to do one student, you do one student. If you prefer to do the whole group in like an average, you could do that. So I'm leaving that to your decision. In a way, it might be easier to do one student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You said that if we are teaching at a university level, we have to choose from 9 to 12. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing some of your reflections on your learners using the WIDA instrument. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my presentation. Okay, so here is a screenshot of the WIDA document that I just showed you on their website. This one is for speaking, I believe it's second to third grade. Okay, and again, WIDA have what they call the Access for ELL, English Language Learners, and these are computer-based adaptive tests that basically test the students' proficiency at different points during their school career. Okay, so again, many schools in the United States use these WIDA tests as a way of demonstrating that the students' language proficiency is developing, over the course of their 12 years at school. Of course, I understand that in Panama, because of budgetary issues, using these tests every year is probably not currently practical. But this group of seminar is really reflecting on where we want to get to, right, in the future. So imagine if the government would agree to invest in using, I'm not saying it has to be WIDA, it could be Cambridge, it could be Pearson, it could be Oxford, it could be TOEFL. There are many, many organizations who create tests that certify language proficiency. But wouldn't it be wonderful if in the public sector, let's say at third grade, sixth grade, ninth grade, 12th grade, we had those tests and we have that, objective feedback on our students' progress, rather than only using tests that we ourselves create. Okay, so we've spoken about two examples of English proficiency tests in the United States. So that is remember, ESL is when English is being taught in an English-speaking country. Now let's think about in an EFL context. So one of the most important frameworks, which was published back in 2001 by the Council of Europe, is called the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. And although it has the name European in the title, it has basically become the #1 global document to describe language proficiency and learning and assessment. Okay, now tomorrow we're going to be really going into this deeply, so I'm not going to go into it so much now, but I'm just going to share with you that Common European Framework established 6 levels of language competency, which you can see in the diagram on the right. So the lowest level is A1 and the highest level is C2. To be considered to have like a suitable level of English to study at an English-speaking university, you are usually required to have a C1 level of language proficiency. And also, it's interesting to consider in our own terms as English language teachers, what level we should have, and should we be required to actually present evidence of our language proficiency through certification. Some countries have already gone down that route. As far as I know, Panama hasn't. I don't know whether anybody has any information on that, but I know that, for example, in Mexico, to be hired as a public English teacher, you have to have a certain level. And it does depend on the level of students that you're teaching. Usually, the best practice is that you should be at least 2 levels above the level that you're teaching. So if you're teaching B1, you should be C1. If you're teaching B2, you should be C2. So if you're teaching kindergarten, I'm not saying, obviously pedagogically it's extremely challenging, and I have like massive respect for colleagues that teach in early education scenarios, because it's just so you've got to have so many activities and keeping the kids engaged. But it's considered that at those levels you could actually have a lower level of language proficiency and still be an effective teacher. So the Common European Framework has many can-do statements. This is a very simple one, which looks at listening, reading, spoken interaction, spoken production, and writing. I'm not going to go into this in detail because, as I said yesterday, you know, we're going to be speaking about that tomorrow. Okay, but just to understand that basically the Common European Framework works with 6 levels, A1 through C2. Okay, probably the institution best known for creating exams for testing the Common European Framework levels in English is Cambridge. What Cambridge have done is created exams that basically certify a particular level. So if you look on the left, you're going to see Cambridge English Key. That is basically certifying a A2 level. Then you have the Cambridge English Preliminary, also known as PET, and that is basically certifying a B1 level. You move on to Cambridge English First, B2, Cambridge English Advanced, C1, Cambridge English Proficiency, C2. So each of those exams has, if you look at the top performance, let's look at the PET, the red one. If you get an A grade, you're actually kind of in the B2 area. So there's a kind of overlap between the levels, but basically that's how it works. They start at A2 and they go through to C2. There is another test called Young Learners, which also certifies A1. Okay, so what's nice about these tests is that you're taking test at each level of your progress. Now, obviously, we have to be realistic about what our program, what proficiency level is the target. If you are working in a K-12 school and you have, let's say, 10 hours of teaching a week, it's perfectly reasonable to say that students will get to a C2 level. But if you're working in a context where you're only seeing the students 2 or 3 times a week, it might be more realistic to establish B1 as the level. So what's nice about the Cambridge exams is that it gives students a sense of progress, which is motivating as they move through the tests. So that's basically what makes Cambridge special, is that they have created tests for each level of the Common European Framework. And just briefly, when it comes to the Common European the Common European Framework, it looks at overall language proficiency in 4 categories: general competencies, communicative language competencies, communicative language activities, and communicative language strategies. Again, we're going to understand more about that tomorrow. Many of you will have been working with course books which are aligned to the Common European Framework. So here we can see a series from Cambridge called English Unlimited. And you can see that the first one is A1, A2, then B1, B1 plus, B2, C1. So what is kind of very interesting there is that there are two books at the B1 level, B1 and B1 plus. And indeed, you know, the experience has told us that many students kind of have that plateau when they get to the intermediate level and they get frustrated and they find it, the sense of progress kind of stops. And so many of the publishers have this aspect where they have two books for the B1 level, because they recognize that this is the level which is most difficult to overcome. Okay, so the level of language complexity, grammar, vocabulary, and skills is designed according to the level of the Common European Framework. So even books that are used, you know, in all around the world are using the Common European Framework to describe the level of complexity. So it's very common in textbooks to see the CEFR level. So we already talked about the Cambridge exams, and here again you can see another diagram which shows the different tests that Cambridge have created. Okay, another important organization in terms of defining language proficiency in an EFL context is Pearson. Pearson is an international publisher. They have you know, books in all areas of education, but they're particularly strong in English language teaching. And they have actually created what they call the global scale of English. And here we can see a little diagram which shows that the scale basically goes from 10 to 90. And we can see how those numbers correspond to the Common European Framework. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why Pearson created this scale is because they felt that it was a little bit demotivating for learners, the fact that the Common European Framework only has 6 levels. And so on a term-by-term basis, you could have a whole year where a student doesn't really move up in the Common European Framework. He started at B1 and he's still B1. So that can lead to a sense of, you know, I'm not really progressing here. So the fact that the global scale of English uses a numerical scale from 10 to 90 gives you the chance to track progress in a more granular way. So let's imagine your student was at a 22, but at the end of the first trimester, he's a 25. And then at the end of the second trimester, he's a 27. And so although he's still A1, according to the Common European Framework, according to the global scale of English, we can see progress. So that's one of the attractive aspects of the global scale of English. And we can see that Pearson have also created tests, both for young learners and for school students. And they are called the benchmark tests. And well, here I have some information on the right, which is related to the benchmark test, but you can see there is one for younger learners as well. And they go from they test all levels of the Common European Framework. They take 45 minutes to apply. They are online and they are graded within minutes using AI technology. And they give detailed performance summaries for each skill which is tested, all 4 language skills. So, you know, this is something that a lot of the publishers are doing. They're offering a whole like package of learning resources and testing instruments. And using these testing instruments gives us that extra validity of showing that our students are really achieving a certain level of proficiency, not in our own evaluations, but actually in evaluations that were created by international experts. Okay, so we've spoken about Cambridge, we've spoken about Pearson. Another very important player in this area is Oxford. They have released the Oxford Test of English, which has 4 modules: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And they have one for schools, which is testing A2, B1, B2. They have one called just the Oxford Test of English, which is more for like high school and adults, which again tests A2, B1, B2. And they also have the Oxford Test of English Advanced, which tests B2 and C1 levels. What is very attractive about the Oxford test is that, to begin with, you take all 4 tests and you will get a report. So you might get, B1 in speaking, but B2 in writing. So you get different scores for different skills. And let's imagine that the objective was that the learner should demonstrate a B1 level of language proficiency, but in one of the skills, they only achieved an A2 level. Then the Oxford test allows you to only take the module that you need to improve your score in. So you could just say, okay, I just need to take the speaking test again, and hopefully you would get the better necessary score. So that is one nice aspect about the Oxford Test of English, again, designed for EFL learners. Another important organization in the field of proficiency assessment is the Michigan English Test. This was one of the first tests created in the United States, but although it is used in the United States, it's more used as an EFL testing instrument, and it's also developed in conjunction with Cambridge University. They have 5 different tests, which are all administered online. They have the Michigan Young Learners English tests, which are looking at pre-A1, A1, and A2 levels. They have the MET-Go, which is basically for upper primary and lower secondary students. And it's available as a 3 or 4 skill exam, again, taken online. They have the high beginner to advanced, the regular Michigan English test, which is basically going from A2 to C1. That's more focused for adults and high school students. And then they have the ECPE, which is a test at the highest level, C2. So again, they have a wide range of online exams that help us to certify language proficiency in an EFL context. And we also have TOEFL institutional tests. Many of you will be familiar with TOEFL as a test that students take or candidates take in a high stakes way, like we mentioned earlier, like if they want to study at a university in the United States. But TOEFL, the company that create TOEFL is called ETS, and they also have TOEFL Primary, TOEFL Junior, and TOEFL ITP, which are great instruments for assessing language proficiency at different levels. So TOEFL Primary is looking at the young learner, TOEFL Junior, maybe 5th grade to 9th grade, and then TOEFL ITP could be maybe for high school in Panama, like cuarto ciclo. So again, they have a wide range of tests, which are excellent for certifying language proficiency in an EFL context. So we've talked about, just to remind you, we've talked about Cambridge, we've talked about Pearson, Oxford, Michigan, and TOEFL. So there are 5 big companies. There are others as well, but I can't speak about every single one in the world, but those are the 5 big ones. And then we also have the high stakes tests, okay? So the high stakes tests are the ones that you take probably only once in your life, or perhaps if you don't get the grade you need, you have to take it again. But the difference with a high stakes test, it is not designed like the others to be used at different milestones. The high stakes tests are there to demonstrate that you have the proficiency to be a student at the university or the institution, or have the language level for the job that you're applying for. And here, the big 3 is the TOEFL IBT. That's the test of English as a foreign language. And the IBT is internet-based test. It goes up to a C1 level, and it's mainly requested by institutions in the United States. The other is IELTS. That's the International English Language Testing Service. That goes up to a C2 level, and that is mainly requested by Canadian, British, and Australian institutions. And finally, we have the Cambridge tests, which we've already talked about, and they go up to a C2 level. I would say, you know, of the 3, the 2 bigger ones are the first 2, TOEFL IBT and IELTS, because Cambridge tends to be used more because of the fact they have, you know, a different test for each level of the Common European Framework. They tend to be used more in language institutions, schools, to track language proficiency progress. Whereas when we talk about, like, okay, you're applying to university, some universities do accept Cambridge, but the vast majority request the TOEFL IBT or the IELTS, depending on the country in which the institution is situated. So the 3 exams are quite similar in many ways. They all have, you know, speaking, reading, listening, and writing sections. They all look at grammar, vocabulary. Perhaps one of the big differences between the 3 is in the speaking test. So the TOEFL IBT, the internet-based test, is a fully internet-based test. So all of the speaking parts are conducted using a headset like the one I'm using today. The test taker listens to a prompt and then has to speak, and the whatever you say is recorded and then listened to at a later date by an evaluator who evaluates the quality of the speaking. Okay, so there is no interaction with another human being. You listen to an instruction, you speak, and that's how the speaking is evaluated. In IELTS, there is actually a 15-minute interview conducted with a speaking examiner, and it starts with thought questions about familiar aspects of your life, like your house or your job, where you study, your family, your habits. Then it moves on to a long turn where you're given a topic which you have to speak about for 2 minutes. And then the examiner will ask you some more abstract questions in relation to what you spoke about. Some people prefer the IELTS because they say that because it has human interaction. It's really testing the candidate's ability to communicate and to interact using English, whereas the TOEFL is just computer-based and you're speaking into a headset. Finally, the Cambridge tests actually have a different format, which is they have a live interview, but they actually have two candidates. Sometimes the candidates are asked to speak individually to the examiner, and other times the two candidates are actually asked to perform a task or interact with the other test taker to discuss a topic. So that's quite interesting because not only is there interaction between the speaking examiner and the candidates, but there's also interaction between the candidates. And another thing you can notice in the photo is that there are actually two examiners. One of them is responsible for conducting the interview, and the other one is purely observing and taking notes. So a little bit different to the IELTS, where there's only one speaking examiner. So you can see in that respect, the TOEFL, IELTS, and Cambridge speaking tests are quite different. And, you could argue that one has an advantage over the other. I'm not going to say one is better, but they are what they are, and they are different, and it's important to know that. So do vary between one organization and another. Does anybody have any questions about TOEFL, IELTS, or Cambridge before I continue?
Good morning, all. And question actually is just a comment about the validity of a exam. For example, with the TOEFL IBT tests have a duration of only 2 years, and after those 2 years has already passed, they are erased. The results, they cannot keep it any longer. So if you plan to use it for future job or requirement from any institution, you will have to take a new one.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. That is indeed true. The validity of IELTS results is also 2 years. And I'm not sure whether Cambridge have, let me just quickly Google that, Cambridge results, validity. Okay, so Cambridge English exam results and certificates are valid indefinitely, according to the information on their support site. So, yeah, but I think, Teacher Dimas, we have to remember that when you are taking a high stakes test, you are usually doing so to demonstrate your suitability to be admitted or recruited at that time, right? So, in a way, I don't see that as like a problem, because if you have demonstrated that you are a C1 level right now in 2024, and you're applying for a job now in 2024, then, it's going to serve its purpose, which is demonstrating to the employer or the government, if you're working in the public sector, that you have that language proficiency level needed to perform your job. Does that make sense?
Sure, of course. Thanks.
Okay, great. But thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting point to raise. Would anybody else like to make any comments or ask any questions about the three big states testing organizations? That's TOEFL, IELTS, or Cambridge. Right now, Cambridge is not available in Panama. They used to have two testing centers, which were the Florida State University and the British King's College in Clayton. But unfortunately, during the pandemic, both were closed. And as we speak, there is no other center open offering Cambridge tests. But I understand that there may be a center opening later this year. So just keep your eye out for any announcements on that. With TOEFL and IELTS, they both are available here in Panama. Okay, so we've spoken about the big three TOEFL, IELTS, and Cambridge assessment. And earlier, I was mentioning that in some countries, the education ministries have adopted requirements that teachers must have a certification demonstrating their ability, their language proficiency. So, for example, we can see in this article here, what's your CEFA level, teacher? It says, now that Mexico has determined since January 2015 that all public schools must offer English as a regular, not optional school subject in grades K3 to 6, there is a scramble to obtain English teachers who must show evidence that they are at a B2 level on the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. Cities and states can be exempt only if they prove they are soliciting English teachers, but not enough have applied with the necessary B2 level. So yeah, I mean, I'd just like to briefly open this up as a discussion point. What do you think about language certification as a requirement to be an English teacher here in Panama? Would anybody like to offer any perspectives or opinions on that?
Good morning again. Well, first of all, I want to just open a parenthesis, and then later I'm going to tackle this question that you're proposing. I mentioned the validity of the exam because sometimes when you're looking forward to obtain a scholarship, and sometimes that scholarship comes from the governmental sector, and if you are lucky, you will get a scholarship to pay your tuition fees and so on. But if you're not lucky, then you'll have to reapply, and that process might take several years while you're waiting for a opportunity for social sciences, which are very rare to get a scholarship because the money is going for natural sciences or other disciplines, other areas of science. Then you'll have to take any of these big tests, Cambridge, IELTS, or TOEFL in a further date, because the validity of your exam will be null by that time. Okay, right. If it's lasted more than 2 years. Then close parenthesis and tackling the questions. Well, I think of to be able to demonstrate, to show evidence that a teacher is at a level, let's say like the case of Mexico, B2 level, seems to be feasible. As you mentioned before, if you are going to teach, for example, a A1 class, then you are expected to have at least 2 levels above that level. So you should be at least a C1, right? Then
B1 in that case.
A B1 that in that case, yeah. Yes, because we have A1, A2, B1, B2, right? So you should be a B2. So 2 levels above or beyond the level you are currently teaching. Right, and it's feasible. I think in a future, I don't know if Panama will adopt that too, but you should be able to have a domain of the language skills and also the competency and the communicative, well, not only the language proficiency, but the communicative proficiency. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up. Sorry, I'll do it again. Initially, you talked about the difference between proficiency and also the
communicative competency.
Yeah, the communicative competence, which Meryl Swain also talks about, right? And then we should be able to have both domains. And our students are expecting to have a good role model in front. So if you are a good role model who can demonstrate that you have through all these stages and you have been successful, you will be a good role model for them.
Absolutely, I completely agree. One other thing which I think is really important in relation to the teacher's language proficiency in terms of their effectiveness in the classroom is not only, I mean, you raise the point of them being a role model, which absolutely I agree with, but also it's the teacher's ability to identify errors. Because I think one of our important roles is to actually identify errors and help students to become aware of them and address them and to eliminate them slowly from their language. And if you have a teacher with a lower language proficiency, what often happens is they don't recognize the errors themselves. So they're not able to perform that role of facilitating error correction. Okay, so I'd just like to ask the teachers connected here. Let's imagine that you were, in the Ministry of Education, responsible for defining policy. Do you think it would be a good idea to require existing teachers to take a language proficiency test from one of these organizations that we've been talking about? And in the case that they were not at the level that one would hope, that they have to engage in some kind of language improvement, professional development? Or do you think that that would be too controversial and that it would be better only to apply this type of testing to new teachers coming into the system? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Would anybody like to share?
Well, I think it will be a good idea to have teacher in service to take this proficiency test in order to find out where we are standing on. Otherwise, you cannot implement any intervention that could improve the level of proficiency that the teacher has. And yeah, but eventually that will be as the teacher are getting retired, and then you should be able to implement it for the new incomers, for the one who are coming new into the system, right? So,
yeah.
But as you mentioned, that has to do with a budget. If the government has a budget to pay for this exam, which would cost such a amount of money that we don't know yet, but I understand that this will help the system to really have a standard, and that standard be established by the government if it's a B1 or B2 for the student that graduate from our secondary school, let's say.
We have a contribution from Hector Guerra in the chat, and he says, I do agree. Even though controversial, it's needed. It's all about learning and progress and advancing. So Yeah, thank you, Hector. So I think it's interesting, isn't it, to reflect on what is our experience of professional development as English teachers? And certainly my experience is that there is a massive focus on pedagogy and very little on language proficiency. It's almost like, assumes that teachers have a perfect level of English, so we don't need to worry about that. But if you accept the idea that an English teacher can be effective at a certain level with a B1 level of language proficiency, but why not turn this into an opportunity for lifelong development for the teacher, so that we have a plan that says, okay, right now you're at a B1 level, and that's perfectly valid for the students that you're teaching, but we would really like you to get to a B2 in 3 years, and to provide the support and resources to facilitate teachers actually developing their own language proficiency. And I think that it's important not to overwhelm teachers. And, we all know that teaching is an extremely hard job with lots of different aspects, including planning and administration. But if we give them a achievable goal, it might actually maintain their love of teaching if they're actually feeling that their language proficiency is also developing, and that would prevent them from suffering burnout and make them a more, um, positive presence in the classroom. Teacher Modesto de Leon, you would like to say something?
Oh, yes, certainly. Very nice to hear opinions. Currently, and for the last many years, I've been engaged in preparing teachers of English for public and privately owned schools. Now, there is a very deep difference between the two settings. For me, the difference in privately owned schools is supervision is immediate. Parents, children, the administration, they don't have to wait for somebody from the Ministry of Education to react in case the teacher is not up to the level. Whereas in the public school system, the teacher gets a position forever. See? And then we have many cases of burnout teachers. My suggestion would be to the Ministry of Education is that every 2-3 years, teachers go to universities to get one semester, one course on updating their methodology. We don't have much problem, although we do have, with the level of English. The universities in Panama are well qualified. And after 4 years of intensive English classes that go from all linguistic aspects to literature, to writing, to speaking, they're well qualified. Now, some of them are C1, some of them are B2. But it's very rare to find a teacher of English that has gone through the university systems that is below B1. That would be somebody who is in the position of a teacher of English, but is not qualified, because that's another problem we have. We teach English in every school in Panama, even from kindergarten to 12th grade. See? And then we don't have enough teachers for those positions. That's another issue we have to look carefully at. So I'm very glad that we have been having this kind of conversation, interacting, because it's part of what we do. In addition, I am the coordinator of the Language Center at the College of Liberal Arts. And then there we have been using the European framework since it started. No? our classes are programmed based on from A1 to C2. The teachers are trained on that. The material that is used is all from Pearson that takes the European framework. And then I think it's one feasible way to organize classes. An additional point concern, I'm sorry, I'm abusing their time.
No, absolutely. It's interesting points. Thank
about,
you.
TOEFL, IBT, and the International Proficiency Test 500 is that they are tied to the issuing of American visas to students. See, if many years ago, before the September 11 issue, you just said, I'm a student, and you went to the States, and that's it. You registered. Now it's the opposite. Now you have to register first in an American university to be considered student in American university by the migration office. And to get that, the first requirement is TOEFL. See? So there is a, it's not an obstacle. It's just another issue that we have to prepare our students for. You want to be a student in the United States, you have to first take TOEFL and all the requirements the university has for foreign students, and then they communicate to the U.S. Embassy that you are a student registered at such and such university, and you begin classes in September. Otherwise, you're not going to be issued an American visa as a student. See?
Yep.
Now, the floor is yours.
Point. Yeah. I mean, but I think that, you know, we can help our students to maximize their success in these tests by exposing them to similar international tests throughout their, you know, learning journey from primary and secondary school. As I was saying, there are many institutions who have developed such tests which are designed to be applied at certain milestones. Obviously, private schools may have the luxury of being able to apply them at the end of each year, but it would be great if the public sector would embrace this opportunity. And obviously, it requires investment. But let's say it was at 3rd, 6th, 9th, 12th. And obviously, when a Ministry of Education is negotiating with these big companies, if they're going to adopt these tests across the whole country, they have a massive negotiating position, and they can get very good value for money from, you know, for these tests. So although it does require financial investment, I think it would have really great, you know, benefits, both for the learners and teachers as well. So I think that, you know, certification is an really important element of quality, because unfortunately, if we're just, I'm not saying that, you know, Panamanian teachers don't create good tests, but there's a lack of standardization and a lack of perhaps validity because of that. But if we're applying, you know, tests that have been created by experts in language assessment, and they're being applied in a systematic way, that really gives us important evidence of how well the system is working or how well it's not working, and what we need to do to address those issues. Of course, I mean, I've been living in Latin America long enough now, 20 years. I arrived in Tegucigalpa in Honduras in 2003. I've lived here long enough to understand the frustration of the short-term mentality of many of the governments, right? That one government will, you know, do initiative to improve a certain aspect of education, and then the next government comes along and often undoes everything that the previous one did. So that's not really conducive to development over the long term. But hopefully, our politicians can overcome that mindset, and we can adopt a long-term implementation of a program which includes certification both for teachers and students. That's the dream we all have, I would imagine. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left of this session. We've been talking up until now about language proficiency, and as the seminar title includes certification of language teaching as well. And, you know, obviously each country has its own laws about, you know, what you need to do to become a qualified English teacher. So here in Panama, there are certain, well, obviously the Universidad de Panama, and then there are other private universities that have had their courses approved, and that students who graduate from those programs are considered to have the necessary skill set to be effective English teachers. I still believe that it would be healthy for English teachers to take an internationally recognized English proficiency test. Teacher Modesto, you were saying that your intuition is that most of them do have a good level, but I think it wouldn't hurt to have, you know, empirical evidence of that as well. But moving on to the pedagogical side of things, there's maybe a little bit, there are fewer options, let's say, provided by the international organizations. But let's have a quick look at this topic before our time runs out. Just bear with me a second. So we're moving on now to EFL teacher certification. Remember, EFL meaning teaching English in a country where English is not the mother tongue. So the main players in this field are Cambridge, TEFL, although TEFL is not actually a single organization. It stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. And there's hundreds, probably thousands of organizations that offer TEFL certification. And it can be sometimes a bit difficult to know which ones are offering good programs and which ones are kind of cowboys, as we say. Generally speaking, you would expect a TEFL course to be at least 100 hours and to involve some practical components, which normally a student will have to write reflection about their teaching practice. Trinity College in London also offer EFL certification, and Pearson. Now, obviously, there are other publishers and other organizations that offer, you know, training courses, which may result in some kind of certificate of achievement or that you finish this course. And I'm not just because I haven't mentioned them in this list, I'm not saying that they're not quality, but these are the four, I would say, the four big ones, okay? So in the case of Cambridge, they have the TKT, the Teaching Knowledge Test. And basically they have 5 modules. 3 are what they call core modules. So module 1 is looking at the background to language learning and teaching. Module 2 is, sorry, just excuse me 1 second. Just having a little issue with my computer. Okay, so module 2 is looking at lesson planning and use of resources for language teaching. Module 3 is looking at managing the teaching and learning process. So these are what they call the core modules. And then they have the specialist modules, which is CLIL, Contents and Language Integrated Learning, and TKT, Young Learners. Now, how do these work? These are knowledge tests. So basically, you are given a syllabus and there are preparation materials. And the way that you become certified is to actually take a multiple choice test in a Cambridge testing center. In the past, I used to work with the Panama Bilingue program, and many of you may know or have even been involved. Panama Bilingue had a program with Cambridge, which was called the CELT-P and the CELT-S, and the teachers were required to take one of the TKT modules as part of their certification process. What is great about the Cambridge TKT is that this is an internationally recognized test. And if you had the intention of going to another country to teach English, having these certifications gives you international credentials, okay? Obviously, you know, if you present a Panamanian degree in another country, people don't really know exactly what was taught, but in an internationally recognized organization like Cambridge, where they have the syllabus online and everybody can see what the teacher has to know about, it just means that you have that more international employability. And some teachers enjoy, even if they don't have the intention of going overseas, they just enjoy the challenge of, you know, receiving international certification, and it may make them more employable here in Panama too. So I mentioned that these are tests that you take in a Cambridge testing center. Regrettably, at the moment, there is no Cambridge testing center in Panama. There may be one opening later this year. So if that's the case, then you may be interested to pursue these certifications. I have taken them myself, and I found them to be quite challenging. They have 4 bands. Band 1 is the lowest, band 4 is the highest. So you give yourself that extra level of challenge. You want to get a band 3 or a band 4. And it was genuinely interesting for me to prepare myself with a group of peers to take the test. Generally, you have to have a minimum of 10 people wanting to take the test. And just to give you an idea, I believe the cost is usually about $100. So, you know, some schools and universities have subsidized this so that the participants maybe pay half and the institution pays the other half. If the Cambridge Centre opens later this year, you might be interested to consider that as an option for yourself. Another very famous qualification by Cambridge is the CELTA. That stands for the Certificate of English Language Teaching for Adults. And it consists of about 120 hours of study. And it's I did this back in 2011. And for me, it was a really enriching experience. Even though I had been teaching for 8 years, I still learned a lot. And one of the things that I found really enriching was this, if you'll notice the bullet point where it says, you'll receive feedback and advice on your teaching. So the way that the program works is it's usually 1 month of face-to-face, or you can do it on a part-time basis online. And generally speaking, you have input from your teacher, and then you do teaching practice. So you work in groups of teachers, and at the end of your class, all of your peers give you feedback on what they liked and what developmental opportunities you had. So receiving that feedback from other teachers was something that I found very, very enriching. So, like I say, although the CELTA is sometimes taken by novice teachers, it's still something that I believe experienced teachers would benefit from and find enriching. It is quite expensive. I believe it costs about $1,500. And so that is obviously quite an investment. But you know, some of you may like to make that investment or discuss with your institution whether they might be interested in subsidizing a part of that. That's how I did it. I was working for a university in Honduras, and they offered to pay for half, and I paid the other half. So again, there isn't a CELTA testing, there isn't a CELTA center in Panama, but there are in Colombia and in Mexico. So if you were able to do the, you know, face-to-face version, obviously you would have to find somewhere to stay for a month, which adds extra cost, but there are online options as well. Then there is the Cambridge Delta, which is basically, we could say, almost like a master's of English language teaching. It's divided into 3 modules. The first module is assessed through a written exam, and that's looking at language methodology and resources. Module 2 is a an in-person, I believe it's 6-week course. So again, that obviously means that it's a little bit challenging in terms of the budget because you have to have somewhere to stay. And then the module 3 is a project. So you could do module 1 and 3 more easily because you don't have to you know, physically be in a center to do those. But module 2 would require you going to a center either in Colombia, Mexico, USA, or somewhere else. And so, you know, obviously there are challenges related to that. So those are the 3 Cambridge teaching options. The TKT, there are 5 qualifications, the CELTA and the Delta. Then Trinity College London, they have very similar certifications to Cambridge in the certificate in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. That is very similar, we could say, to the CELTA. And the final one, the certificate for practicing teachers, could be similar to the Delta. And then they also offer other certifications for young learners, teaching online. So again, you may like to investigate the different options online, but Trinity College London is definitely one of the major players in the world of EFL teaching certification. I beg your pardon, the diploma in TESOL is the one that's similar to Delta, the one I mentioned before. Pearson also have the Academy Certificate in English Language Teaching Development, which I believe they do in conjunction with Hunter College in the United States. And that is also something you can do online. You can find more information about that on their website. So it's more than 100 hours of modular content, which means that it's self-paced. You have videos, podcasts, video tutorials. So what's nice about this is that you can do it at your own pace. And it focuses on practical strategies using the latest pedagogies and methodology to apply in the classroom immediately. So I mentioned TEFL. I don't have a slide on TEFL because there's just so many providers of TEFL certificates, and it can be challenging to know which ones are reputable and which ones aren't. You just have to, you know, do the due diligence there. But those are basically the major teaching certifications currently available on an international basis. So that brings me to the end of my presentation today. We have a few minutes left before the session is due to end. Would anybody like to ask any questions or make any closing comments?
Well, good morning again. For the ones that were not in when I
Hi, Teacher Marisol.
started this morning. Well, I would like to say that maybe if you consider it that it's not necessary, you have to start thinking about it, because it is important to know your level of English. It is important to know how able you are to teach what you are teaching. I would say that we should think of a way of having our teachers certified, because, I mean, we are competing with other universities around the world. We have universities from Costa Rica, from Colombia, that are certified, and then they are certifying their teachers. So we have to think of being more competitive in what we are doing. Those are just my remarks.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
exactly. And I think also transparency, right? Because those of us that work in the public sector, essentially our salary comes from taxes from government. And so there is an element to which we should feel, you know, that it's a good thing for us to show to the society that is investing in education that we have the credentials necessary to perform our role effectively. So yes, I think that, you know, language proficiency is sometimes the elephant in the room when we talk about teacher qualifications and professional development. There's far more focus on methodology, and I'm not for a moment saying that methodology isn't important, but I feel as though language proficiency has been somewhat neglected. And surely it would be a good thing for us as a profession to show our willingness to take these tests and to demonstrate that we are excellent professionals who are qualified for our work.
Thank you. Well, do we have any other comment? Hello. Are you there?
Oh, yes, we are. Very interesting topic. And the information was very up to date. So thank you, Mr. Owen, because the knowledge you are sharing from your experience give us an idea for the which test we should take first, and then go on into the improvement and demonstrating our skills. And thanks a lot. I know everybody is kind of in silence, but everybody's thinking about it because it's something that is important as second language speakers, to demonstrate that we do have the knowledge and the competence to teach. That's important. Think about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your words. And also, as I said earlier, you know, taking a language proficiency test can also help us identify professional development needs. So if we're currently at a B2 level, what do we need to do to get to a C1 level? And wouldn't it be wonderful if teachers could be provided the resources and support to actually upgrade their own language level too? I think that would be a fantastic, you know, innovation.
Thank you.
Teacher, I think teacher, was it Mauricio Rivera? I saw you put your video on. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, actually he's our next speaker.
Oh, he's going to be our next
He's waiting online. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. No, I don't want to step in right now. I'm just getting ready.
Okay.
For the 15-minute presentation, and you just go ahead because I'm just getting ready. Though, go ahead. Don't worry. I'll be with you in 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Don't worry.
Okay. So I hope that the task that I set was clear. Please don't feel intimidated by the task. All I want you to do is to engage with the weeder, you know, can-do statements, and think about using that instrument in a very informal way to reflect on where your learner or learners might be in relation to that instrument. So just a simple, like sentence saying, well, I'm teaching 10th grade and I'm looking at the speaking part of the rubric, and for the explanation category, I think my student X is at level 3 because blah, blah, blah. So just like a, initial interaction with that instrument, okay?
Mr. Lowe.
Yes.
Okay, you only want like a summary of
Yeah,
the
just
group?
a brief reflection on where your learner or learners are in relation to one skill. Remember, the skills have 3 categories: recount, explain, and argue.
Because I am trying to get into a reader, but I cannot.
Okay, did you click on the link that I posted in the... Yeah.
Yes.
So...
in order to develop the task.
Yeah. So the
I
link... Let me just quickly share the link here in Zoom. Can you click on that link I just shared in the chat?
Okay, let me see.
Yes, it works.
Yes,
So
it works, but...
So what you need to do is then scroll down to where it says, I'm just going to share my screen one more time.
But
if
this
you scroll down, can you see where it says K-12 can do descriptors?
Exactly.
Okay, and then if you look on the right-hand side, you have to choose the grade level which you consider most appropriate. If you're teaching young adults or adults, go to 9 and 12.
Okay.
Click on the link there, and it will open a Word document.
Okay.
Is that working for you?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
so once you've done that, you just need to choose one of the language skills: speaking, reading, writing, or listening, and then look at the categories of argue, explain, and what was it? Argue, recount. It's a very simple reflection on where you think a particular learner of yours or a group of learners are according to those 6 levels that the WIDA people have defined.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so I hope that was, I know there was a lot of information. I apologize. It was kind of a very presenter-centered presentation, but there was a lot to cover. Like I said, I'm going to upload the PPT. I hope that's possible, Teacher Marisol. There's no
yeah, that's possible. Yes, of course. No, there are no restrictions. Yeah.
Okay, so I noticed.
I just want to remind the participants that you have to register in your classroom. We send you the link. We already sent you the link by email, so you have to access with the link. I don't see some people, that are in the room. I don't see them in the classroom. So make sure you access the classroom for you to be able to do your assignment, all of your assignments from here to Friday.
Great. All right, so it's okay with you, Teacher Joel and Marisol. I'm going to withdraw now.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Lowe, for your presentation. So as we all know that by familiarizing ourselves with different certification models, their assessment criteria, their competences, how they measure language and teaching. So that will make us to be better equipped with the necessary tools to navigate this world that is teaching and learning. So thank you very much, Daniel, for your presentation. And we are going to have you tomorrow morning too, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'll be
Okay.
talking about the
Thank
Common
you.
European Framework. So see you
The
tomorrow,
Common European
everybody.
Framework. Okay.
Okay. Bye
Excellent.
for now.
So now before our break, we're going to have a commercial presentation. We'll have from Hello Britannica. We're going to have Mauricio Rivera, that is the Business Development Advisor for Central America and the Caribbean. Thank you, Mauricio, for joining.
Okay, hello everybody. It is so nice to be here sharing with you guys some quality time in this very special forum. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to this 15-minute presentation. Thank God you guys told me to have a 15-minute presentation because, you know, I'm from the sales team. If you hadn't told me, I would have continued up to 1 hour speaking about our product presentation. But thank you very much. Before we move on with our platform, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Britannica. Britannica education, I'm going to summarize it in just 1 minute, 200 years of history in just 1 minute. Basically, Britannica education is the evolution of what you guys once knew as Britannica Encyclopedia Britannica. That has been that, you know, the reference and research material that has been going on in the world for 250 years, and everything has been digitalized. And of course, now we have evolved, and now we turn into a educational company that offers different products and services, right? And one of the products that we already have for our customers is a platform that is called Hello Britannica, and this is the one that I'm going to be focusing in our next following minutes. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm going to turn off the video for a very good connectivity. So let me know when you guys see my presentation. Just let me know if you guys look at it right now. Yes, hold on a minute. Just let me move this thing away from here. Okay, are you guys looking at the presentation right now? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Hold on a minute. I'm just gonna stop the video here. Okay. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Okay, very good. Okay, but once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Hello Britannica. What is Hello Britannica? Hello Britannica is our newest platform that is basically a platform that is going to accompany any agnostic English program, because this one does it is fully aligned with the Common European Framework standards, right? And therefore, it is an agnostic tool that is going to be a very important tool that accompanies like different English processes throughout the university or the school year, right? So basically, Hello Britannica is a tailored English language learning tool, which is a platform designed to help equip the students with practical skills and empower teachers with essential support. Basically, we mainly focus on giving all the information and all the practice that the student needs for them to improve in all 4 different skills. I'm talking about speaking, listening, reading, and writing, along with some cultural awareness. And at the same time, we are going to provide a very robust dashboard to the teachers for them to do all the proper follow-up and the monitoring on the students' performance, okay? So what else can we say about this, about Hello Britannica? So as you can see here, I have highlighted some like keywords out of these different paragraphs. But basically what this tool is going to help prepare students to become like very cultural sensitive, right? So this one is aimed to different type of students. I'm talking about travelers, I'm talking about students, I'm talking about university students and regular workers who are going to be immersed in societies and cultures around the world. And the purpose is that for them to get all the tools. Okay, there is someone that is going to be. I'm going to admit the person. Okay, the purpose of this platform is to provide with all the essential tools to all English learners for them to speak effectively with native speakers and be citizens of the world, and they can be like very, very, very likely to speak in different cultural awareness, or in different cultural contexts, right? And the purpose is for them to be a productive citizen. Britannica, Hello Britannica, as I told you at the beginning, is a dynamic agnostic program that integrates all 4 different abilities. I'm talking about listening, speaking, reading, writing, and of course, everything that is going to be cross-cultural, and the purpose is to be cultural understanding and to become citizens of the world. One of the key benefits that Hello Britannica has is that it's fully aligned with the Common European Framework Standards and the WIDA standards, which are the ones that you were talking just about a few minutes ago, right? Because this is a program that has been built to fully benefit all the learners, not only on the Common European frameworks, but also on the WIDA standards, right? And the purpose is for them to be ready to be confident, culturally aware, and communicatively competent in diverse English-speaking environments. One of the key features or key characteristics about Hello Britannica is that it also looks or helps to address the educational inequities by extending English language education. One of the key features that Hello Britannica has is that since all the learning process is going to be totally tailored for each student's needs, so it is going to close this gap between having a learning tool that is going to be standardized. Instead of having a standardized platform, we are going to have a tailor-made platform that is going to make the student more comfortable and is going to be more productive when learning a new language, because every single student is individual, has individual needs, has different needs, and the way you can approach to the different skills are always in a very tailored and individual way. That's the reason why that is one of the key features that Hello Britannica has. One of the other things that Hello Britannica has is that it has 2 different ways for you to navigate. You can do it on you can either do it on the web or mobile apps, because Hello Britannica comes with its own app, and is going to give the opportunity to all learners to be thriving during this learning process. Basically, these are like the different key benefits that Hello Britannica offers the different students, right? It always focuses on real world context, and as I told you, we have tailor-made lessons for individuals, and they are going to be aligned to the Common European standards or the WIDA standards. One of the good things that the teacher dashboard is very robust. It is very detailed. It's going to provide you with all the necessary and significant information for the teachers to do a follow-up on the student's performance. Another thing, as you know, Britannica has high or top-notch or high-quality content, and this content has been curated, and this content is going to be provided by other portals from Britannica, which are, for example, Britannica Escolar or Britannica Academic. So we are going to provide all this information for all the different activities. So we are going to have curated, validated content. So that is going to be fully available in our platform, and that is fully trustworthy. Engaging activity. One of the things, and as you know, today's tendencies is that we need to have different gamification activities, game challenges, and of course, we cannot skip having artificial intelligence power feedback to have students motivated. So we have already integrated artificial intelligence within the program, because this is some of the tendencies that nowadays we have with our learning needs when it comes to English. Supportive scaffolding. The idea is to boost understanding with instructions and tips the learner's first language, because this platform not only focuses on on the foreign language or the second language, it also boosts and it also looks forward to integrating culturally the students within the platform. Sometimes it is important for them to express in their own native language, and that's the reason why we have activities that don't need to be originally be written down in the second language, but can be originally written down in the native language in order for them to express, because there is a culturally part that is very, very important in our platform. Skill development, comprehensive coverage of listening, speaking, reading, writing, and grammar. As you know, we cannot only focus on the different skills, but we also have to focus on the different sub skills, such grammar and such vocabulary, because they are going to help enrich all the productive abilities. And one of the good things that also that this platform offers the students is that once the student finishes the level, the student is going to get completion certificates, right? And that completion certificates, of course, the students needs to filter like different evaluations for them to be granted a completion certificate. They need to get at least 8 out of 10 in all the skills activities and all the skill tests and all the end of level tests for them to be granted with a completion certificate, because this completion certificate requires has some requirements, academic requirements for them to be granted the completion certificate. Basically, we are going to summarize everything that I have just said in these 5 different modes here. Provide cutting-edge oral practice, because the purpose with this platform is that to have oral practice fully integrated with all the different abilities and skills. As I told you, since the program is fully tailor-made, the purpose is to reduce these opportunity gaps, because sometimes if a student is going to be having just being registered in a level that is fully standardized, so maybe the students are not going to be like fully benefit, or they're not going to have all the benefits from having something tailor-made, because they need to learn at their own pace. That's the reason why this one reduces the opportunity gaps. Tailored learning approaches. This one is basically linked with the previous one here. Connect communities, because the purpose is that we are going to create not only we are not only focusing on enriching students in the different abilities, but also we want to do it cross-cultural, because they want to become citizens of the world. And the other one, last but not least, is that empowers educators with all the very robust and a very detailed dashboard that is going to give all the information that the teachers requires for them to do a proper follow-up on the students' performance. Okay, and finally, this platform can not only be used for adults, it is also family focused, and it is also adult learner focused. So this platform really engages not only students from a certain age, because the aim is to enroll, or the aim is to focus on all different ages for them to learn with Hello Britannica. Okay, guys. So basically, I think that I have covered the 15 minutes presentation. I know that I was a little bit fast about it, but this is what I just wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you very much, Mauricio, for sharing about Hello Britannica. I know this is a great tool for improving English learning. So could you share your email here just in case people want to learn more about?
Sure. I'm going to write down here my email. There you go. It's very simple. M, that stands for Mauricio Rivera, my last name, @eb.com. So if you guys want to have further information about Hello Britannica, I'm just happy to share that information with you guys. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So now it's time for a break. We're going to have 15 minutes break. So we're going to be back at 11 6:05, right? Yes, 15 minutes break. It's important to stretch your muscles, drink coffee, and be ready for the next
Hello?
session. In 15 minutes. We have
Hi,
1
Joel.
minute. We have 1 minute left, so I want to activate the chat box here. Please let us know where are you now, in Panama or where in the world. So let's activate the chat box here before we start. And I would like to hear, where are you now? Maybe some of you are at the coffee shop. I don't know where. So let's see. Let's activate the chat box. Panama or maybe in the provinces here. Okay. Bogota, Colombia, Andres. Oh my God. Excellent. Colón. Fantastic. Okay, please. Veraguas. Oh my God. Veraguas. Fine. Okay. Who else? Let's go to the chat box and activate the chat box before we start. La Chorrera, West Panama. Excelente. Fantastic. Panama, Panama City, or I don't know. I see people from the provinces here, please. Go Colón, excellent. Colón. Okay. Colón. Hey, we have many people from Colón today. That's great. Fantastic. So, fine. So let's start here with our second block of academic session. We are very happy to have the participation of Pearson Education in this second block of academic session. I would like to introduce the speakers, and the first one is Patricia Almendro. She is an English teacher who graduated from CONSUDEC in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She has completed postgraduate courses in England and at Universidad Católica de Salta. She has worked in Argentina in many states and private schools in Buenos Aires and Misiones, teaching young learners, teens, and adults. She has been a teacher trainer, and an English language coordinator in different, opportunities. She has worked for Pearson for 13 years and is now the coordinator of the academic consultancy unit for Pearson Latin America. She is a certified master trainer for Pearson and is now doing the Harvard Managed Mentor Program, a trusted leadership development course from Harvard University. Let's welcome Patricia Almendro with, emoticons here. Let's send, her, anything. Let's go. Okay. Okay, here.
Okay. Well, thank you for your introduction, Joel, and thank you for the reactions.
To introduce Andres, all right?
Okay.
Okay, please send reactions after my introduction, okay? Okay, perfect. Andres is an English teacher with a degree in primary education with an emphasis on humanities. He has worked in English as an English teacher, academic coordinator, and a curriculum designer and at the recognized language academies in Colombia, both in teaching roles and administration roles. Andres has participated in designing educational programs for work and development in Colombia, especially in developing curricula for English for specific purposes, standing out in web development. His qualifications include C2 level certification in English and certified courses in Scrum and Scrum Master, reflecting his competencies and adaptability to modern project management methodology. So now, reaction for both of them to, for Patricia and Andres. Let's see the reactions here. Reactions. Okay, go to the react tab button here and then react on them. Welcome, and we hope that this session is going to be, a great opportunity for us to learn more about Pearson Education Program.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Marisol, for inviting us. I'm here today with Andres to share with you some information about our Pearson ELTT program, our English Language Teacher Development Certificate. So we want you to participate, I'm glad that I'm seeing the chat, everybody answering and sending reactions. That's what we want. We want an active audience. So we will go through three about and professional benefits of going on studying when we are already professionals working and teaching. We will also go through the structure of this course and certificate, and that's why Andres will be sharing his experience as a teacher doing the course and waiting to be tested and having his certification. And we will also show you what the certificate looks like, right? But the first question, and we will have lots of big questions for us to reflect today on professional development. So the first question is why? So in the chat box, you can start sharing your ideas. Why is professional development important today? Or why is professional development important for you? So in the chat box, all your ideas. Andres, can you read the chat box? Can you read the ideas?
Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. So let's see if we have some ideas here. People just sending messages. Nobody has sent any chat. Just guys, you can go to the chat box and answer this question: why is professional development important?
Or why are you here today, listening to us, and you are here in this webinar and seminar?
Fuentes Dima says professional development has to do with ongoing teacher training.
Ongoing training, excellent.
Okay, let's see, more people are typing. So we invite you guys to go to the chat box and answer the question that's on the screen right now. Why is professional development important? Or why do you consider as a teacher that you need to be constantly training yourself? Alicia, small answers for knowledge. Okay,
knowledge.
that's good.
Excellent. So we are here today because we want to know more. We want to be inspired. We want to have extra information for our lessons, and because we want to be better professionals, right? So we will have a look at some benefits of keeping on, as you said, on keeping on studying and continually trying to read more or listen to experts or get to know more information. Well, we have some benefits. And the first one is enhancing teaching skills. It's always important to refine our skills, to get to know more, to see what other people are doing around, and what we can do in a different way to help our students better. Yes, so in a way, we want to be all the time engaged, and we want to make sure that our lessons are really effective and our teaching skills are really getting to that goal or that expected outcome for every lesson. What about staying updated? We all know that in this changing world, we need to be updated all the time. Yes, for example, the use of artificial intelligence, the use of flipped learning. So all the time we need to be updated with new methodology, and because our learners are learning in a different way also. New generations are reading and studying in a different way, so we cannot be teaching the same way. Also, because we want to build our students' confidence in speaking English, yes? So we want to bring new resources, new ideas. We want to be updated also with how we can motivate and engage our students in oral and written production. Also, keeping on learning and studying will, of course, give us new opportunities for networking. So whenever we are whenever we come here, for example, and participating in the chat box, we give our opinions, but we also read about what other teachers are doing in other countries or in other cities. So we learn from others and we can have opportunities for networking. What else? We also have career advancement. We want to know more because we want to have better positions. So sometimes if we already are teachers, we start studying about leadership because we want to be coordinators or because we want to advance in our careers, maybe specialize in one skill or in one methodology. So there are always opportunities for career advancement when you keep on learning and when you keep on studying. So today, this is why we'll come to you with information about a new course, 100% online, with these benefits for you to advance in your career, for have new opportunities, for build your own confidence and your students' confidence, and for you to stay updated and enhance your teaching skills. But I do have another question for you, so be prepared. Another question here. We are talking about the benefits of keeping on studying and learning when we are professionals already in the ELT world. But we also know that it's not only about studying or keeping on our professional studies, it's also about a certificate. So why do you think obtaining an international certificate is important today?
So while more people post their answers on the chat box, I would like to read some of the answers that were posted before. Let me see. Emil Carbonilla says applying the knowledge with students. Ania Bonilla says knowledge is constant. These are some of the answers to the previous question. Cesar writes to foster the teaching practice. Anthony writes experience. Randy considers it is important to study and being constantly trained to be updated with technology and English. Last two, Hania Bonilla says we need to be updated with the new information, and Linda Hagian says to acquire new tools. As to the question, why obtaining a new international certificate, Fuentes Dima says to validate your language proficiency level. That's what they say. No more pause yet for the last question. So let's see what the other teachers write on the chat box.
Sometimes it's true that we need to validate. Yes, we need to, some employers and also some universities ask for certifications so that they can recognize the knowledge we have, yes, but there are many reasons and many big benefits while you keep on thinking about why obtaining an international certificate when we are completing a course or updating in a webinar or in a seminar. Well, we can give you some. The first one we have here is global recognition. We all know that an international certificate will give you recognition worldwide. Wherever you go, in different universities and in different institutions around the world, they usually publish the recognition they have in different certifications. So you know that you can work in different places or even from home, but you can add credibility to your studies with a certification. What else? The second benefits we have here on the screen is that it's going to give you career opportunities. A certification will surely give you the certificate will open doors, yes, and enhance your career opportunities, because wherever you go, you can present your certification and it will open opportunities for teaching or sharing your experience. So it's good that you show your certificate to as evidence of your high standards. The third benefit says broadened skill set. And this is interesting because international programs often will give you a wide range of teaching methodologies, and this will also give you a different perspective, will help you understand or enrich your knowledge, help you understand more, and obviously you will become a more versatile educator, which is what we want. And look at the last one. When you study and you read more and you share more with colleagues, you become more confident. You become more competent, but also more confidence in being ready to demonstrate what you have studied and also be ready to implement what you have studied in the classroom with your students. So the benefits are really varied and also very practical because you will be into your class showing your learners and applying all your knowledge with your learners. Now let's have a look at the structure of this course, and then Andres will be sharing his screen and showing us the different parts of the exam. But here an overview very quickly for you to have an overview here of what the course is all about. For us to get the certificate, we will find 100% online a 40 hours course, which is organized in different modules, in 3 modules and an introductory module, where you will be learning about ELT methodology, about language systems, and also about language skills. It's going to give you very short dynamic lessons, 40 lessons, but very short lessons of 20 minutes per module. And it's going to be focusing actually on content and transferable, or how you can transfer that content to the teaching context. Andres will show us in the platform how the course is presented and how we are going through quizzes and reflection and different types of activities and videos. We will be exploring all the knowledge, all the content, to finally get our certification, which is a certification from the Hunter College, University of New York, an international certification. So very quickly, you can have a look at how the different modules will go through ELT methodology, from theory to practice, the roles of the teacher, teaching in the real world, developing also your student skills. And here you can see in module 2, how you will go through the 4 language systems, through grammar, lexis, discourse, and also pronunciation. And in the final module, after having gone through deductive and inductive grammar, pronunciation, lexis, and discourse, you will go into the 4 language skills. Yes, so you will be mixing these skills and helping your students improve their skills. So different approaches to productive skills, to also listening and reading, yes, decoding, finding information, so that your students will finally produce in spoken and written language. So I'm going to invite now Andres to share his experience as a professional studying with our third ELTD course, so that he can show you how the modules are presented and how he's studying right now.
Thank you so much, Pat. Can you hear me well, guys? Yes?
We
Okay.
hear you well.
Okay, thanks a lot for being here. Thank you, everybody. My name is Andres Becerra. I work at Pearson. I am an academic consultant, and I am a teacher. I've been a teacher for 15 years now. And part of my experience as a teacher has to do with teaching adults and teaching in different settings. And when I discovered this CERT LTD course, I was very interested in renewing many different concepts and theories that with the years you tend to forget. And is that as a teacher, sometimes you work at a school or you work at a university where you have to follow certain methodologies and certain strategies, and then you start leaving aside some others that you probably don't need. And what this causes is that with the time, you tend to forget things. So for me, it was highly valuable to have this tool of this course, because this course has allowed me to remember things that I had forgotten, and also to learn some other things that I thought I knew, but I didn't know. So that's one of the greatest parts of this course. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show what this is course about, but more from the perspective of a student. Just give me one sec. I'm sharing here. I think you can see it now. Oh, just hold on. Yeah, well, I'm just switching to the course. I cannot move this bar here. Okay, yeah. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that this course is allocated on a platform called Pearson Connexus. Yeah. So when you get access to the course, you have a username and a password to access this platform, because this course is 100% offline. So which means that you have to go to the platform, and from there, you access all the different lessons, the different units and modules. So as a student, what you do is that you go to your Pearson Connexus platform, and you access with the username and a password. Yeah. These username and passwords are given to you when you get the course and you decide to study or to take the course with us. Once I enter my username and my password on Pearson Connexus, you just click on login, and it takes you directly to the user interface where you have access to your course. This course here is the course I am taking. This is CERT LTD Pearson Colombia. Yeah. So in this case, you have access to the student app. From here, you can go to your notes, you can access your gradebook, you can have access to announcements, different announcements that are posted on the platform, and so many other features that you as a student will have access to. How do you go to the contents? How do you go to the topics and the modules? You just click on the picture, CERT LTD Pearson Colombia, and then immediately you open user's interface. In the user's interface, as Pat mentioned before, you can see all the different components here. For example, in my course, or this course specifically, has 4 different modules. Yeah. So here I am in my account. I have the title of the course. This is the average of the scoring that I've had in all the tests in the modules. Access to the grades. So as a student, I can see what my grades have been in all the different lessons. So we can go here in lesson 1, for example, that is about understanding second language acquisition. I took a test, and in that test, I got 100%. I took the test in June 17, 2024, 2 months ago. And then I can have I can track, and I can have the analysis and the data from all the different things that I have performed in the platform as a student. Let's go back to the dashboard where I find the course. And just give me 1 second. Let's go back to the course here, course activities. Now, how are the activities divided, and how is the course structured from within the platform? Very simple. When you go to the platform, you will find that the course is composed by 4 different modules. The first module is a welcome module where they give you information, general information about the course. Then we go to module 1, which is about ELT methodology, module 2, which is about teaching the 4 language system, and module 3, teaching the 4th language skills. Now, when you dig into each one of the modules, you will find, for example, module 1. So in this case, you find 4 different units. Module 2, 4 different units. And module 3, 4 different units. Let's take a look at the names. For example, module 1, unit 1, from theory to practice. Module 2, unit 2, the roles of a teacher. Unit 3, teaching in the real world. And unit 4, developing your students. Module 2, teaching the 4 language systems. Unit 1, grammar. Unit 2, teaching lexis. Unit 3, teaching pronunciation. Unit 4, teaching discourse. Module 3, teaching the 4 language skills. Unit 1, teaching reading. Unit 2, writing. Unit 3, listening. Unit 4, speaking. So as you can judge by the units, just reading their titles, you can realize that you have in the contents absolutely everything that a teacher needs to know for them to teach English as a second language. So it's a very, very interesting course. In my case, I've only finished some of the units. I think I've only finished some of the lessons from unit 1, yeah? So let's go and check what these lessons have. I highly recommend you guys to take the welcome module, because in this welcome module, you will find some videos from the authors of this course. So they are giving the welcome to the course, and they are just explaining in general terms what this course is about. For example, we can just go ahead and click on the first lesson that is called Welcome. So it opens a document, and this is a video. Let's take a look at the video, the welcoming video for the course. Just some seconds. Am I sharing my sound? Just give me one sec. I don't know. Can you hear? I think you can. Just give me one second. Sharing screen, share sound. Share. Okay. Who can share? Okay.
Comprehensive teacher development course, which supports all teachers, irrespective of their background, location and means, to embrace lifelong learning and thrive in an ever-changing and increasingly connected world. In order to be successful educators, teachers know that they need to adapt their practice and upskill to meet the ever-changing needs and demands of their learners.
So basically this video is an overview of the course. They are explaining what this course is about and giving the welcome to new students. When you finish looking at the video, when you stop watching the video and you finish this part, the platform automatically checks this video and you can move on to the next part of the course. So which means that the progress is being checked automatically as soon as you watch the video or you do this or that activity. How do you realize that the progress is being checked? Because at the top right corner of your screen, you can see this check mark that says that this video has been completed, therefore you can move on and continue with the next part of the lesson. When you finish the video, you just click on next activity and it takes you to the next video or the next set of questions, or if you have a reading, if you have to read some document, so you can just go ahead and access the document from there. So as you can see, here is a document that you can read just to complement or to start the journey. And this is a journal that you can download and you can just take notes on this document as you take the course. So as you pass and move on, you can have different activities in the course. For example, this is a course introduction by one of the authors, that is Chia Susan Zhang. She is welcoming students. This is one of the authors of the 30 LTD course.
Hello, I'm Chi Sun Chong. I'm an ELT and communication skills trainer, teacher trainer, and one of the course authors. As you're on this course, I know that you're looking to develop yourselves professionally and build on the teaching experience you already have. Perhaps you're looking for new ways to approach teaching.
So, of course, in the welcome part, you will have to go and check the video. You will see the video. Her explanation is very interesting because she's speaking about what is the real purpose of this course. Next video, we have a video from another of the authors of CERT LTD. And just give me 1 second. Let's go back and check the progress here. So we have course introduction. We have an activity. We have some other activities. This is an activity roadmap, goal setting, and we will have a platform walkthrough in this first part, which is the welcome to the course. Then if we go to module 1, whenever you open a module, as we mentioned before, we will have 4 different units. And in every unit, you will find 10 different lessons, okay? Very important that, so remember, we have 4 modules, well, 3 modules, because module number 1 is the welcome module. So we will have 3 modules, every module with 4 units, and every unit with 10 lessons. Whenever you finish a lesson, you will find a check mark on the top right corner of the lesson, of the icon. Remember, module number 1 was called ELT methodology. So when I open, the unit 1 is called From Theory to Practice. And when I open that, I have different lessons. I have already finished all these lessons. For example, let's go and check one of the lessons. Let's check the lesson about humanistic approaches. So if you identify the lesson you want to work on, and you click on the lesson, humanistic approaches, and look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 different activities per lesson. So once again, 3 modules, 4 units per module, 10 lessons per unit, and then we have roughly 8 activities per lesson. Hey, I want to learn about humanistic approaches. So I click on the first activity and it takes me to the first activity itself, the activities. Oh, let's go and check it out. Course is loading. Okay, an introduction to humanistic approaches. Let's take this one super fast. Which of these things do you do in your classroom? Read each one to find out more about the humanistic approaches that also made use of these classroom practices. So in this part, we can see that the program or the course is teaching us about different situations that we can have in the classroom. And based on that, we can analyze these situations and we can think about those approaches that we apply in the classroom constantly. So it is giving us different contexts and we can identify whether we perform these kind of activities in the classroom or not. For example, situation number 1, you have students stand up and do the physical actions of the words you shout out. This is one situation that occurs in the classroom. This was a common feature of the grammar translation method because it was assumed that students studied a foreign language in order to understand its literature. Second, having students translate sentences to practice a grammar structure. Under the grammar translation method, these sentences were sample sentences of a grammar structure and not selected for their communicative learning. And thus I can continue reading the different context based on this primary question that I was asked, which is, which of these things do you do in your classroom? Once I read them all, I continue and I click on next activity. Okay, now, based on that previous knowledge that was checked, because we were previously checking some knowledge about the traditional methods, I go and check the new knowledge that I have to learn, which is exploring the humanistic approaches. And they tell me, Many of these humanistic approaches feature extreme but innovative ways of teaching language. Listen to the podcast and answer the questions in the following activity. This session particularly has a podcast. So you scroll down, you find the podcast, you play it. This is an 8-minute podcast. You play it.
Hi there, and thanks for joining us. Today we're going back in time to look at some alternative approaches to teaching that were popular with certain groups in the 1970s and early 80s.
Some call them the humanistic approaches. Others call them the designer methods. They might not have been used in mainstream classrooms, but they were certainly innovative and different. And
so the idea here is that I listen to the podcast, and I have to listen to the podcast carefully because I'm going to be asked a number of questions based on that podcast. So in the podcast, they are explaining or they are talking about the humanistic approaches. So once I finish listening to the podcast, I just click on next activity and then I start with the questions. Yeah. So the first topic that is talked about in the podcast, well, they speak about the TPR and the silent way. Remember TPR, total physical response, which is a methodology that is widely used in classrooms where we have children, and especially when we are teaching vocabulary. Yeah. So they give us some information about TPR and the silent way, which are about they were spoken about in the podcast we listened previously. Now, and then I continue. In order to learn from these humanistic approaches, we need to understand their limitations and what we can apply to the language classroom of today. So they give us some information, and here we have one activity. Look at the phrases in the next activity. Do they describe an advantage or disadvantage of the method? Put the phrases in the correct cell. So then I click on next activity and I continue with the course. So very important to read absolutely everything, listen to the podcasts, watch the videos, because we will find everything I know to learn to learn about these different methods. For example, here, we have the two approaches, total physical response and the silent way. Remember, these two approaches were spoken about in the previous podcast. So by now, I should have heard the podcast. Yeah, good. So I come here. Advantages and disadvantages, not effective for higher levels. I think it would be total physical response, maybe. Yes, I think. Yes, guys, give me 1 second. Second, disadvantage. Oh, no, this is a disadvantage from total physical response, I guess. Second, Cuisinart rods in every lesson can get boring. Let's say maybe this is a disadvantage here. This method can be easily incorporated into normal lessons. Okay, so you do your thing here and you choose the correct answers according to what you listened before, and you click on submit. Once you click on submit, the platform will tell you if your answer is correct or incorrect. And then you have to respond to all the answers based on what you read and what you learned. The idea is that with this kind of... Oh, can you hear me? Hello, hello?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, just give me a second. I'm looking for an outlet here. Yeah, so what is the idea, guys, with this kind of exercises and this kind of tools? That you go there, you do your own exercises, and you follow your own progress in the platform, okay? So
yes,
you will
really
repeat the
interactive, Andres, while you...
same activities over and over again. Thank you. Go ahead, Pat. Sorry,
no,
you were saying?
I was adding here that it's really interactive, that all the activities are really short. As we mentioned before, even though the modules have 40 lessons, the lessons are really short. So you don't need a lot of time. You can access the platform through your mobile, through a tablet or your computer, so it's multi-device. And all the time you are reading or watching a video, you have input, and then you have a lot of activities like you were showing to check your comprehension. So it's really interesting because it's not just reading, it's just it's reading and listening, and at the same time or watching, but at the same time doing something to check your knowledge and your comprehension. So it's 100% interactive.
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, here we moved on to another topic, which is community of language learning and Suggestopedia. So you are given the information, and then you continue by clicking on next activity, exploring the other resources on the platform. So here, for example, we are moving on to a video, I guess. Oh, this is once again, same activity, dragging and the advantages and disadvantages of these two methods that were spoken about before. So whenever you finish one of the lessons, you just can go ahead and you can take one activity or two, depending on your schedule, depending on your availability during the day. This is something important about the platform, and is that you don't have to take one complete lesson at once. But let's suppose I have some minutes, I am working at the school, I go out for a break, or I have my lunch time, and I have a couple of minutes to work on one of the lessons. So I just come here, I go to the lesson, I open the lesson, and I select the topic, where I select the activity that I want to perform. Let's say this is a video. I watch the video. Oh my God, I don't have more time. I have to go back to my classes. And there is not a problem. You can access the resources and you can do all the activities as you can accommodate your times to take the course. Very important to finish the course. And it is recommended that you take at least one of the activities per day. So which means that per day, okay? So you take enough time to cover one lesson per day, and you will be able to take the full course in 6 months, the 6 months that are allowed for you to do so. What else? Whenever you open a module, for example, you access the module, and then you go to the one of the activities, let's say from theory to practice, which were the ones that and you open the lesson. The first thing you'll see is the overview, so explaining to you what the lesson is about. And also they are showing the different objectives for the lessons, so what the learning objectives are. In this case, you'll see that after this lesson, you'll be able to interpret your beliefs about language learning, recall behaviorist theories in language learning, recognize Krashen's 5 hypotheses, and anticipate how these language learning theories impact in the classroom. So with that, you can start just taking all the activities.
We are